under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies?
Here.
Owen?
Here.
Lee?
Here.
McGrath? Here. Childers?
Here.
Heller? Sullivan?
Okay, first item on the agenda is the 207's Parent of the Year Award. Let's start with Maine East. Mike, please.
Good. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the Maine East 207 Parent of the Year recipient, Mrs. Lourdes Gonzalez. Lourdes has been very active. I've been aware of her at East, I think, the entire time I've been there, or maybe after I was there for a year. I had one son who graduated already, and Alex just graduated Sunday night. He's Golden Apple Scholar, so Mom and Dad have done real good there. And what I want to do is just read the letter that Alex submitted. I think that is really what it's all about. So the person I want to recognize for the Parent of the Year Award is my lovely mom. My mom has a lot of jobs that include handling me and my brother, working as an architect, and working as a Fine Arts Booster president. She's an outstanding woman, and I feel she doesn't get enough credit that she deserves. My mom has helped me a lot throughout the years with school and other activities. She just doesn't stop. She attends every one of my events, even when she's busy. She's helped me learn and use some skills I thought I would never learn. She does an outstanding job as Fine Arts Booster president by working with other parents to raise money to support all of the fine arts. She always seems to be on call and available when needed. She's turned me into a very nice gentleman from the day I was born. I was born with a heart defect and had to be rushed to the hospital. To this day, I still have to deal with it. It was a traumatic experience for her, but being the strong woman that she is, she cared for me and did whatever she could for me to be the healthiest and happiest child I could be. Without her help today, I would be very lost in the world. My mother is both very caring and very non-selfish. She helps with the neighborhood and does whatever she can to make the community a safer place. For each school that I've attended, she's been there to support me as much as she can. Throughout high school, I've been involved with band, marching band, choirs, swimming, and water polo. She's a woman you don't have to ask twice to come to one of your events. She's going to be there. My mother is an outstanding person and a great role model. I hope when I'm older, I can use some of her attributes and skills to be a great person like herself. Sarah was awarded with a prestigious award called the Golden Apple. Golden Apple is a teaching scholarship only awarded to the top 135 high school seniors in Illinois who meet the standards. I had my doubts in applying for this award, but I would look at my mom and see the look on her face, and I would know she had no doubts that I would receive the award. For my interview in February, she was very anxious to hear back in 2 months' time. 2 months later, while I was in school, I heard that I had a big packet in the mail that read Golden Apple. My mom so anxiously came to school after I was done with classes, gave me a big hug saying, "You did it." I was the happiest person on the planet, knowing that without my mom's support, I wouldn't have received this award. I couldn't help but tell her I couldn't do it without you. My mom is a big part of my life now, and I plan to have it that way the rest of my life. So I hope my mother wins this award to show all the time and effort you put in for me. Everyone else is finally paid off. I can't attest to what happens at home, but I know both boys have been really fine young men, and I certainly know what I have seen in terms of her leadership and her dedication to not only her kids, but to all of the kids in the Fine Arts Department. She's been very active on parent advisory at times. She's one of the people that I really have a lot of respect for as a critical friend. She's a real booster and a fan of Maine East, and is also always helping, I think, to make suggestions, make things better. So, congratulations. Well deserved.
Next up, Sean, please.
I'd like to introduce Roxanne Samarco, who is our Parent of the Year at Maine South. I'll preface Paige, her daughter's letter, with saying that every year I ask teachers too as well, just to say, hey, if there's any parent out there that you may have had some interaction with, let me know about that too. Well, last year, Mrs. Samarco came up, and I had to say to the teacher, thanks, but we have to wait till next year. So 2 years in the making, but you've been, your work with your daughter and other students in our building has been well noted. So I'd like to read Paige's letter. My mom is the definition of Parent of the Year. She goes above and beyond in every aspect of being a mom. She's very involved, she's an avid listener, she gives great advice, and deserves this award as recognition for everything that she has done for me and my sister. She never ceases to amaze me with how dedicated of a mother she is, and I know that I can count on her for anything. Just today, my Hog Pride group had forgotten to get candy for our class, but I knew I could rely on my mom to get it for us. I texted her, and sure enough, there in the SBS office was a bag full of Kit Kats with my name on it. Inside the bag was also a chocolate chip muffin that my mom had picked up for me while she was at the store because she knew that they were my favorite. Sure, that's a little thing, but those turn out to be the important things. In many sports, parents will sign up to bring spirit bags full of snacks for the team or away games, and my mom always signed herself up for those. Her spirit bags were famous. I'm not even kidding. You can ask anyone on varsity soccer. They all love them. Most parents would throw a Rice Krispie treat, granola bar, maybe some trail mix. My mom, well, she went full out. Her spirit bags contained an Einstein bagel sliced in half with an individual packet of cream cheese and a spreading knife, a clementine, a bag of juicy strawberries, cut up of course, and a cold Gatorade, all to be consumed before the game for a healthier alternative. There was a whole other half of spirit bags for after the game. However, complete with a Tootsie Pop, packet of Goldfish, and either Chips Ahoy or Oreos. Each bag had the girl's name written on it so that it was easily identifiable, and the coaches each got personalized bags as well. Even the bus driver would get a bag. I swear to God, she made one for them every single time. The girls on my teams would praise these bags and tell me what an awesome mom I'd have for putting so much time and effort into something for them. You may be thinking, well, stay-at-home moms have plenty of time on their hands, but my mom works 3 jobs and runs a household. She's basically a superhero. Well, she's my superhero anyway. She works for my dad, she works in the skyboxes at Soldier Field, she works for a few months a year at the Chicago Auto Show, and she does not have endless amounts of time in her hands as she finds time to be the greatest parent possible. Her generosity is unmatchable. She is truly an incredible person. I didn't know about this award until my soccer coach, Coach Roddick Small, looked at me on the bus one day and said, "You need to make sure you nominate your mom for Parent of the Year because I can't think of a better one than her." And I agree. This may be examples of the little things that she does for me, but these are little things that she does each and every day. The little things matter, and oftentimes it's the little things that make us feel truly loved. I wouldn't trade my mom for anyone or anything. She is my rock. If there's one person that is always at my side, it is my mother. I can count on her for anything at any time. She deserves to be recognized for how amazing she is because that kind of love and devotion should not go unnoticed. The hardest part about going away to college next year is leaving her. So before I go, I want to make sure that she's aware of how much she means to me and how great of a parent she is. In my opinion, she is the parent of the year. No, she's the parent of the century. I'm so grateful to have her as my parent, and I can only hope that one day I'm half as good a mom as she is. Congratulations.
Last but not least, Audrey?
Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce to you, well, I'm going to introduce Periamin Taprawat, and I've really worked on Fa's name, practiced it, so I'm just going to call Fa's mom, okay? So, Fa has written a wonderful letter on behalf of her mom and has shared with me personally the wonderful qualities of her mom. And you've met Fa before. She was one of 207's best this year. She's at the very top of the class. She addressed the senior class at graduation. Her speech was chosen, the top 1% get to submit a speech, and 21 out of 21 administrators chose her speech because it was just absolutely fantastic. So Fa then wrote a letter about her mom and talked about the support that she has from her mom, including saying that my mom is my hero. Ever since I could remember, she has been my role model, my caregiver, and my best friend. I know my mom deserves this award because she has done everything possible in order to provide me with the best education in life I could get. My father left us when I was only 1 year old, and this has proven to me just how strong my mother truly is. Without her, I never would have had the chance to move to the United States and be immersed in all the wonderful opportunities this country provides. Even before then, she drove me to a school that was an hour away every single morning in Thailand, just to make sure that I was receiving the best education possible. I am truly grateful. So now my mom is burdened with the entire cost of putting me through college, as she's not getting support from her stepdad, and I feel she deserves a break from raising me all by herself without my father. For a while, she had to take on 2 jobs as an accountant and sell insurance on the side to have enough money to support me. Currently, she works 7 days a week and works 2 jobs. My mom is the type of parent that just gives and never restricts my ambitions. With her help, I was able to explore the many interests I had, and she was always there by my side through failure and success, driving me to practices, buying instruments, attending concerts, going to games. The list is endless. However, I think the most important thing about my mother is that she never stops fighting. Through the worst of times, she has shown me that anyone can make it through. She battled bankruptcy caused by my real dad and demanding bosses who take her for granted. Well, this is my chance to show that she does not take it for granted, and I appreciate every single kind gesture she has offered me. I am an overachiever, slightly, and, editorial, and my mother constantly reminds me that life is not about the letter grades on a piece of paper, but the knowledge we gain that can be used for the rest of our lives. She oftentimes cries over the distance that is between our family in Thailand and our life here, but she always justifies it by saying that I need to be here to continue my education and work toward higher goals. I'm so grateful for all the sacrifices she has had to make for me. Cut it out. In this country, all I have is my mother. We have each other, and that's all that matters. I wish I could do just as much for her as she has done for me, but I know that all she really needs is love, and to know that I love her very much. It's from Fa. You've done an awesome job with Fa. She's a terrific young lady, and she's got a great role model in you. Congratulations for that.
Okay, communications, do we have any public comments? Any cards, Ginny?
No cards.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry. The principals and the parents of the year step out in the hall.
Take some pictures.
Dave's going to take some pictures. Public comment, any comments from board members? Updates? Mary?
I don't know, I'll learn as we go along. Carla and Jen and I attended the Illinois Association of School Board seminar last Friday and Saturday, and it was required. I would go if it wasn't required. It was really, really helpful, informative, encouraging, enlightening, and we sat with board members from District 63, and it was really great teachings.
I have to echo with Mary. It has been a great educational experience, and we have learned so much. So we can save superintendents and everyone's time in a way. There was many questions that has been answered. So definitely looking forward to attending future educational seminars.
Thank you. Education committee, Carla? No, Donna.
Let me start by saying that the education committee visited all 3 schools to find out from the chairs how the year went. It was enlightening. It seemed as though it was an overwhelming task. They were given very, very little time to muddle through all of the changes that were necessary. And I was very impressed that they did as well as they did. I think next year they will be much better, and I think the teachers will be more confident. So if there's anything else that anybody wants to offer from the ed committee?
Okay, building and grounds?
We met on May 24th. It was a fairly routine meeting. I think a couple of the items are on the agenda for tonight. One of the items we took a look at was the Maine West roof bid, which I believe a portion of that's being covered under warranty.
The materials, yes.
And then also the storm workers' compensation. So those will appear on board, as well as the 10-year health and life safety as an information item.
Thank you. Policy committee, Carla?
Yes, we met on May 30th, and we began the discussion of looking at policies in response mostly to the cost report. And we have a first reading on some of those tonight, which I don't know, we don't go into that later. So Greg is going to talk about that in a minute too.
Anything else? Monthly status of finances, Mary?
In your board packet, we have the March and April financial reports. We are still tracking under budget in terms of expenditures and slightly over budget in terms of revenue, which is preferable than the opposite. So even though April represents about, April represents, our expenditures are about 73%, but that's lower than you would expect for April because we have 10-month salaries, and 10-month salaries have only been expended at 66.6% because we catch up in June when we run all their summer payrolls and hold them. So that's why you'll see larger expenditures coming in June, but our expenditures trail behind the portion of the year that is completed. On the revenue side, the property taxes have been coming in both March and April, and that can be reflected in terms of the percentage of revenue received. The state continues to lag behind in payments. We won't know until the end of August if we'll hit our state revenue numbers. We believe that we will, because past history has shown that in July and August they make those payments, but we won't know for sure until after the end of the fiscal year. Also in here is the third quarter budget update. The third quarter budget update, some of the major variances are property taxes. Our collections were greater than the 98.5% that we budgeted. They're almost at 100%, which is higher than they've been in many years. With the dissolution of METSEP, we took our portion of the equity, our first payment out of it. That was $700,000. That was not budgeted because we were not sure if that distribution would have to wait until this year closed and we had agreed upon procedures. And the auditor said that we could go ahead and distribute some of that money last fall. As you're aware, in January we had no increase on our medical premiums, so that saved the district about $500,000. That is not something we anticipated at the time we did the budget. And then we are not spending about $620,000 in our contingencies. So those few items add up to the district having a positive variance of about $4 million and now projecting a surplus of just under $8 million for the close of the year. And finally in here for information, the SCRIMP board, SCRIMP is the Secondary School Cooperative Risk Management Program, is property liability and workers' compensation insurance pool that the district belongs to. Our workers' comp is on a July 1 renewal, so at our June meeting, the SCRIMP board will be acting on the workers' comp renewal that's in here. The latest information for the board's information, we have a $150,000 self-insured retention, which based on our history, we're choosing to keep at our self-insured retention level at $150,000. SCRIMP is raising their level from $500,000 to $600,000. And they're also recommending funding it at a 65% confidence level. In the past, we funded at a 50% confidence level, which means in half the years, the amount contributed would cover the claims, and in half they would. Based on particularly our large claims, which has drained the equity, we are now putting some of that equity back into the pool. I will entertain any questions on any of these four items.
Any questions? Okay, instructional services, main scholars, Barb?
Yes, I know many of you were at the graduations in the last couple of days, and you probably noticed the main scholars with their gold stoles walking across the stage. We have presented for you here just a listing of who those scholars are, and they represent the top 1% of each graduating class.
Thank you. Monthly FOIA updates, Jen?
We have 7 this month, all either processed or in the process of being processed, and we have detail for the board as requested previously on from whom they come and the nature of the requests.
Any questions? Policies and procedures, right?
Yes,
As a result of the policy committee meeting that was held on May 30th, we have quite a few policies that are brought to your attention today for a first reading. The first one is 2650, the abused and neglected child reporting responsibility. This is a policy that the committee is recommending that we update mostly in response to the ACOSTA report, and also simply just to update it based on the recommendations from the Illinois Association of School Boards. And so what you can see there is everything that has the strike through, that's the old language, and all of the new suggested language from the Illinois Association of School Boards has been inserted in its place. The main purpose here was to provide contact information and reporting information to those people who may, suspect some type of case of neglect or abuse.
Okay, this is just a first reading, so if there are any comments or questions, I know I sent Greg some questions earlier, and did you want to discuss those?
Correct. One of the questions that Margaret had was, does the mandated reporter responsibility apply to board members? And yes, it does. And so that's something that we can take a look to see where we may want to insert that in here. The other thing that she asked is how often or when do our employees certify that they have read through our information and acknowledged the fact that they are mandated reporters? The answer to that question is upon hire and before they're working with kids. And so immediately upon hire, they are provided the copies of the policy and they sign off having read and understood their responsibilities. And then on an annual basis, we track the training that they are required to do through the online tutorials on an annual basis.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that policy?
Would you like me to move to the next one?
Yeah, I think we're ready to move.
Okay, the next one is discrimination complaints and grievances, number 3005. And basically what we're doing here is simply just expanding the basis for discrimination to include changes to law. For example, unfavorable discharge from the military is something that is still an area now that employers cannot have some adverse employment reaction because of that. And it also includes harassment. And so these two things that we needed to update, as well as having a strong anti-retaliation clause in the policy. And so this policy that you see here is another one that's recommended by the Illinois Association of School Boards. And like I said, it just expands the basis for discrimination.
And the uniform grievance procedure, would you, I think that was...
Oh, yes, that's one important piece. The district has, for many, many years, had a uniform grievance procedure, and that is what you see on the following pages. We're not recommending any changes to this procedure. However, this procedure was always simply just a standalone item buried in the back of our policy manual, and the committee is recommending that it now be inserted as the procedures section of policy 3005. It just makes more sense that the procedures follow an actual policy. So we're not recommending changes to the uniform grievance procedure. It worked well for us. There's also the reporting form that is used, but we just thought it made sense that it followed the policy.
Okay.
The next one is 3030, and the previous title was Personnel Files Content of, and there was not a procedures section with this policy. And so what the committee decided to do was take the recommendations from the ACOSTA report, include language from the Illinois Association of School Boards, and what you have here is actually a compilation of two policies, one which I'll talk about later is being recommended to be deleted, because the content of that is being covered in this new policy, or this revised policy, 3030. And an extension to that, we have now a procedures section that follows this one, and that's all brand new, which you can see on the following pages, that's all bold and underlined. And that is the lengthy procedures that the Illinois Association of School Boards is recommending. And then, since this really does pertain to this policy, we're recommending the deletion of policy 3031 because that policy was called access to personnel files. All of that information now is covered under the existing policy and procedure that we're recommending. So the policy committee is really just trying to clean up some of the policies and react to the recommendations that have been provided to us.
Okay, any questions, comments on those policies? And we have one more policy?
Yes, there is one more. The other piece that the committee talked about was, and this was a suggestion from the Acosta report, that we have a strong prohibition of retaliation clause in our policy. The committee felt that this was important enough that it be in and of itself a policy and not buried within, a paragraph within a lengthy policy. So the committee decided to create a new policy, number 3911, which is simply titled Prohibition of Retaliation. And this is the language that would have normally been embedded in some of the other policies, but the committee wanted it as a standalone item for parents and community members to see as actual policy versus buried in the lengthy text of another policy. So, like I said, this is the first reading, and so I'll be happy to entertain any questions or suggestions today. And if not, if people want a chance to digest this information further, please feel free to send me suggestions through email or phone call, and I will take these to the committee and also run them by legal counsel.
Mary?
Carla, is this something that you want to consider waiving in first reading, or do you want it to take the time for the 2 meetings?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we need to do the reading.
That's what we're doing
Yeah,
now.
We want to have more time to look it over.
So you're going to keep studying?
We want everyone to have a chance to look at it and be comfortable
Yeah.
with it before we.
The committee's seen it, but this is, really, you
First
just
time.
got it, so if you've got comments or things you want to send on it.
And I think we also have a couple of policies from the Education Committee.
I gave you a handout in addition to what's in your binder, as a 2-page handout, just summarizing some key points that we did bring up at the Education Committee. So I'll kind of give you a thumbnail sketch of that discussion. First of all, back in 2011, we really started studying our grading policies and procedures. And being a grading committee at that time, some of you will remember that we also surveyed parents, had about 600 respondents, surveyed students, we had about 1,300 respondents, and surveyed teachers as well. And then started learning a lot about what was best practice in grading policies and procedures. And we've had a number of speakers work with us. We've provided some assessment literacy training for teachers, just trying to get ourselves up to speed on understanding what should be going on. In 2012, we implemented the SIS program, which had a new gradebook program, and that kind of brought to the forefront some of the problems that we had suspected had been there, but were ones that we felt we needed to address that are kind of at the core of these 2 policies. One is that as we started digging into the use of Aspen and gradebook program, we noticed that there's at least 17 different scales out there that are being used by teachers, because we did not have a district consistent scale across the board. We also noticed that the way that the final exam or whatever was given as a final was calculated in slightly different ways and not consistent. So some of the inconsistencies could be seen in some of the data that you have on the handout, where you look at across a team of teachers of biology, for example, on one side of the page, you can have a vastly different grade distribution than if you're in a different section of biology. And on the reverse side, we took a look at the same thing in sections of English as well. So we've got some inconsistencies in the way that grades are being calculated, which probably are due to a lot of different factors. But the one thing that we can take a small step on, the grading committee decided, is to try to address having a common scale that's going to be clear, that's going to communicate well to kids, to parents, to all stakeholders, what an A is, what a B is, so forth and so on, and also to address how the final exam should be placed within the calculation in Aspen. So to that end, we took a look at board policies 5415 and 5417 that are in your book and suggested the revisions that are located there. The bulk of the changes in 5415 are the addition of a scale, which is a 90, 80, 70, 60 scale, something that all of us probably from our school days are familiar with. It does include the addition of pluses and minuses and where the grade points would be for those grades. And Carla asked me a very good question earlier today. She wanted to know who else in our contiguous area is doing this, who else is using pluses and minuses. So even though I don't have all the respondents back, I sent out a quick survey to the 55 area Connecticut school districts. And 10 or 11 of them are using pluses and minuses. They are shown on the transcript. And probably 2/3 of those are letting it impact the GPA, which we are not recommending at this time to do. And about 10 or 11 are not. So it's about 50-50 of the schools that responded to me. Of the ones who are, I'll just quickly list off some names so it sounds familiar to you. Lyons, Grays Lake, Hinsdale, Geneva Lake Forest, Valley View, Highland Park, Deerfield, Orland Park, New Trier, and we understand that District 211 is in the process of looking at this. And then there's an equal number of names that you recognize of those who haven't gone in this direction. So I guess what I'm saying is we're not on bleeding edge by proposing this. There's a number of schools who do use pluses and minuses and do let it show on the transcript, and some of them do let it impact the GPA, which is not currently what we're recommending. What we're trying to do, though, is have, at the point of entering grades in Aspen, have everyone be using a common scale and give them help to move from how they're grading to equate their grading practices to this scale, but so that when we go into Aspen or a parent goes into Aspen, they don't have to figure out, okay, in this course, period 3 that my son has, this is the grading scale, but in period 5, this is the grading scale. We're trying to have a common message here and also provide a way that Aspen then can automate some things. If we have this common scale, we can take some of the calculations perhaps of athletic eligibility or other functions that Hank can identify and put those into an automatic package for teachers, making their lives a little bit easier too. One other question that Carla brought to me this morning, which I think is worth the board giving us some feedback on, is we feel like we've been talking about this for a long time, and we've gotten some feedback. And we did bring it to the Education Committee in May, and it's been run by DLC, etc. But because this is the first reading of the policy now, and we're expecting the board to come back and weigh in on it in July, hopefully, so we can implement it in the fall. But in this interim period of time, we could certainly send out the policies or a description of what the changes are going to be to parents with a Google survey and invite them to give us some feedback. And that way they're alerted to the fact of the changes we're considering, and also we can collect some information back from them if that would be helpful for the board to gather in the interim. And then we have more information for July. We get that information out prior to the board meeting. You might feel more comfortable at that time to approve it. If we are going to go forward with this, we need it to be approved in time for fall implementation when teachers are setting up their grade books and just go by and so forth and so on. These two changes are relatively small in the whole big picture of assessment issues to discuss, and expect that as we continue to grow and our knowledge about this in the district, we'll be probably coming back to the Ed committee with some other issues to talk about. But right now, these would be very helpful fixes to clean up some of the messes, frankly, that are out there.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
I did ask a couple questions today, and I just want to explain where that was coming from me. You know, there will be on the transcript now, there will be B pluses, you know, A minuses, you know, a variety of things that, those grades really weren't there before. And my thought was, how is an admissions counselor going to view this? And I felt that that's fine to have it on there, but how are the districts around us, how are other schools doing this? Because you're going to be comparing our graduates and their transcript with minuses to another transcript that may not have it, or pluses, can work both ways. So that's why I asked her to look into it, and thank you, because that's helpful to see that, you know, there's about half are doing it.
And I'll keep updating that list for you.
And I also said that I didn't know how much parents knew about that. And all of a sudden, they're going to, you know, if they're not aware of it, they're suddenly going to see pluses and minuses coming on their grade reports and their transcripts. And I think they should have a chance to let us know how they feel about that. But thank you very much for doing that.
And policy 5417?
5417 is simply putting in the language that was worked out between us and the Teachers Association in terms of expectations for when they should enter grades. This is, Greg, what was the term for that letter? Letter of memorandum or?
Memorandum of understanding.
Memorandum of understanding. So it's word for word taken from that letter, simply to clarify what has been a point of confusion in the past about timely fashion. What does that mean? And these 6 or 7 points spell it out, and these were practiced this year, starting in the fall. So this is actually reflecting what is current practice that was adopted this fall. We took the opportunity to update board policy at this point.
Okay, any questions, comments? Right. Thank you, Barb. Next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll move consent. Second.
Donna, any questions, comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Lee? Owen?
Aye.
Childers? Aye. Lees?
Aye.
Keller? Sullivan? McGrath?
Aye. Next is item 8, 2013 summer curriculum projects. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve the summer curriculum projects for 2013 as presented.
So moved.
Okay, Sullivan, Keller, any questions? I do have one. Is this an increase in the amount of summer projects that we have this year? Is it?
First of all, it's a lower dollar amount per the last contract, so our dollars are going farther. But we have a lot of initiatives that we're trying to support. I didn't actually count up, you know, the number. It feels like we're supporting more initiatives, but it's not a greater amount of money. Because I have a line item that supports that, and we have certain line items in our grants. So we may have made money spread farther, but I don't think it's no money. I can find it as total for you on that.
Yeah, it seemed like there was no project, so I just wondered if that, what, you know.
We've gone from $52 roughly an hour to $30 an hour, so we've been able to support more projects. with
During the
$6.
last round of bargaining, we changed the summer curriculum rate with the MTA down from $50 to $30 an hour.
Okay, I just wondered if there was more courses, more projects, and if that was, you know, I saw a lot of projects that were related to implementation of the Chromebooks and the e-books
Yes.
and
Special ed issues too.
special ed issues. Those were
We have
probably
very
the
few
two.
courses, so it's gonna go towards our sort of at-risk populations or our initiatives that we, you know, are bringing on. We need to do that.
Pam's had a number of the instructional changes that she's working with in special ed this year. Obviously, the Chromebooks are a big push.
Okay. Any other, Mary?
With the new projects that, less money, do you know yet how many more children will be served? They might not have signed up yet, but Nancy?
Well, this is not summer school. These are curriculum projects that teachers are working on.
Oh, I misunderstood.
So curriculum development and they have
How many more
also.
teachers?
Well, you can see the team number totals of those who are involved in the projects.
And you just tell them it's a lot more.
From last year.
I'm sure it is, because we've taken about the same amount of money and we've got a third of it, you know, that we can spread to additional projects.
Right, and there's participation.
Yes,
It's one thing to have a project, but
And these projects, because they're coming from grants, have to have a professional development component to them. So in many cases, they're fronted with 5 or 6 hours of facilitation. I know Pam, for example, is gonna work with some groups, give them some training on something, then they're gonna go use that at work and develop the materials that meet the needs of the initiative. So it's kind of a combo between PD and curriculum development. And we have to do that in order to use Title II grants, a lot of Title I, and some of the idea grants as well.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? Jenny, call the roll.
Heller. Lays. Owen.
Aye.
Lee. Childers. Sullivan. McGrath.
Aye. Next, approval of bids and awarding of contracts.
You want a group motion or single?
I think we should do these all together.
I'll make a group motion to approve the bids and awarding contracts listed under 9.
Okay, second. Sullivan, Heller. Any,
I have one question on the Atletico contract. I noticed that, I don't think there was a termination provision before.
There was, it was an exhibit B.
Yeah,
so
but
we
I-
moved it to the body of the agreement.
Okay, was it, okay, I looked at exhibit B and it does have termination, but it's for like, if there's a bankruptcy or.
No, the exact wording that we moved to the body of the agreement was an exhibit B.
Okay,
We just moved it up,
okay,
I think there's
because now it's not reflected in B.
I understand. I just don't want there to be a
Conflict.
conflict between,
And in the event there
I'm
is a
sorry, there
conflict,
might
we
be.
spell out that the body of the agreement supersedes. But there is no conflict.
well,
Well, there's,
I think that the what's in the contract, I think the body of the contract is good. We want that. It just says you know, can terminate. What's in the appendix is, you know, kind of for cause type things, and I don't know if there's conflict. Margaret, did you read it?
Well, I did look at there's a merger clause there at item K. It says, if there is any conflict between this agreement and its exhibits, this agreement shall take precedence, so.
That's fine. Then
Yeah,
that's fine.
that's-
Yeah,
I asked the very same question.
Okay.
yeah.
Jen?
Just quick question, addition to regarding the contractor or bids. What is the procedure in order for contractors to participate or on these kind of general bids? What are their requirements or what kind of outreach that our school has been communicate through other potential contractors and where and how, generally
So-
speaking?
When we put bids together, we do a couple things. We have a potential bidders folder for people who've contacted us and are interested in being on the bid list. We also do outreach, so like the athletic trainer contract, we know that there are about 3 companies that perform these services for suburban school districts. So we got contact information from all 3 of those companies to make sure they got bids. So we do both. We have people who contact us and request information, and then we do outreach to companies who we know perform those services. For the construction projects, if it's a vendor that we're not familiar with, our architect will ask them to do a pre-certification form, and they will check some of the references, as well as they're required to attend a pre-bid meeting so that they understand the full scope of the project.
So do we have a pre-bid meeting for every?
No, just for our construction projects, so that they can understand the scope of the project. And we do, like when we bid food service, we did a pre-bid meeting. But pre-bid meetings, we do on the larger scope projects. On the smaller scope projects, either the bid or the RFP is the information that the vendors are provided, and then if there's a clarifying question that they ask, we send that information out to everyone.
Then what will be the opportunity for any new potential contractors, businesses who would like to do some business with our school or district? What kind of information, how could they get this kind of information in advance?
They can request to be on our potential bidder or vendor list, and then if we have an RFP or a bid that's going out in that area, they would be on the list to get it. Or when we advertise in the paper, there are a number of entities that pick that up and send it out to their trade service groups. So
we do advertise in the newspaper.
yeah, we are required to advertise for, and then wait 10 days.
So we do give enough time for any
Yes.
potential
And that's the minimum,
contractors.
right. On a large project, we may do more time from that because they have to go through all of the bid documents and put everything together.
And I know you've been mentioning about a bond or anything. What are the special requirements for as a contractors to?
It's based on the project, but all of our construction projects, we require to have bid bonds in.
Is that for any specific amount, like 50,000 on the project or 50,000?
It depends on the size and scope of the project.
Any additional questions or comments? Judy, call the roll, please.
Lee,
Aye.
Childers. Lees,
Aye.
Heller, Owen,
Aye.
Sullivan, McGrath.
Aye. Item 10, 10-year health life safety survey as recommended by the Building and Grounds Committee, that the Board of Education approve the 10-year health life safety survey as presented and authorize the administration to file the necessary information with the state. Do you have a motion?
I so move. Second.
Okay, Dr. Owen. Questions, comments? Okay, call the roll, please.
Lees,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Owen,
Aye.
Heller, Childers, Sullivan, McGrath.
Aye. Item 11, budget timeline for the 2013-2014 budget approval. With these resolutions, there are two resolutions, we'll do them separately. First, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Maine Township High School District 207 in the County of Cook, State of Illinois, that Mary Kalu, Assistant Superintendent for Business, be and is hereby appointed to prepare a tentative budget for said school district for the fiscal year beginning on July 1st, 2013 and ending on June 30th, 2014, which tentative budget shall be filed by the Secretary of this Board of Education. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of Maine Township High School District 207 in the County of Cook, State of Illinois, that a public hearing will be held on the tentative budget for the 2013-2014 on August 5th, 2013 at 7 p.m. And the following notice of public hearing be published at least 30 days prior to August 5th, 2013.
So moved.
So moved. Second. Sullivan, Heller. Comments? Questions?
Quick question, how is it differ from a previous year's experience regarding this budget timeline at 2012-13?
I think this is exactly the same
This
time.
is exactly about 2 years ago, we made the change. The public hearing used to be held in September, and the budget was adopted that same evening. So we pushed the public hearing into August to allow a month in between those two, so that if there was any public input that we received, we could have an opportunity to decide whether or not the budget should be impacted by that.
So the timeline is very adequate, and is it comfortable by Dr. Ken Wallace and everyone else?
Okay. Gary, any problems, Ken? No? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Jenny?
Owen,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Heller, Lees,
Aye.
Childers, McGrath.
Aye. Okay, adoption of a resolution regarding NSER. Be it resolved by the Board of Education of Maine Township High School District 207 in the County of Cook, State of Illinois, The public hearing will be held on the 2013-2014 NSERC tentative budget on August 5th, 2013 at 7 p.m. And the following notice of public hearing be published at least 30 days prior to August 5th, 2013.
So moved.
Sullivan?
Second.
Owen? Questions or comments? Okay, call the roll, please.
Lee, Owen,
Aye.
Sullivan, Childers, Keller, Lees, McGrath.
Aye. Okay, calendar items, the next item up on the calendar is the next board meeting on July 8th. Are there any other, and board meetings also, the public hearing and board meeting on August 5th. Are there any other calendar items, meetings scheduled at this time?
We don't have one scheduled, but I think we should probably try to get a policy committee at least once over the summer. And so would you like me to just send something out to synchronize everybody's calendars?
Okay. Anyone else feel, Mary?
Well, if we're going over the summer, in July, after we present the tentative budget, we have typically had either finance committee meeting or board workshop on the tentative budget.
Okay, we set that at the time of the,
At the July meeting.
at the July meeting, okay? Anything else? Okay. Item 13, communications, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
Communication.
Yes, sorry.
Just want to share and recognize I was able to attend a pretty wonderful graduation ceremony for past 2 days. Able to attend those 3 different schools, and it was great excitement. And just want to recognize all the 3 wonderful principals that how great, wonderful job that you have done. It was very impressive, very smooth, and there's no accident whatsoever. Yeah, no tripping. The timing was very adequate.
88 minutes, itself is 88 minutes.
So all the students was happy, and then they just want to recognize great job for all those all the 3 principals. Thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
a great experience.
Okay, any other communications? Next up is an informational item on community matters. Ken, are you going to speak
Yes.
about that?
You have in your packet the final report from Community Matters. That's the group that we contracted with to do the focus group work in each of the buildings. And so we wanted to give that to you tonight before we release it to the public. Our intent tonight is to go ahead and release it. We'll put it on the website. We'll release it to the media as well. But more importantly, or most importantly, we'll be meeting with the cabinet this summer to take a look at the recommendations and putting together an action plan that encompasses both things in this report as well as items from the Acosta report for action plans in each of the buildings next year to begin to act on some of these recommendations. And I'll entertain any questions on the report.
I just have one question. I'd like to understand how the focus groups were selected.
Okay.
And if there was any particular criteria used for that.
The criteria, especially for the students and the staff, it was about 50-50 on just sort of a random distribution selection, and then the other 50 was really targeted to make sure that we included students who had been impacted by issues of bullying in the schools, or parents who had been impacted with their children with issues of bullying in the school. We felt that it was very important that those voices be intentionally present in the focus groups. And then I'll let the principals, if they want to, speak more closely to the staff. I think the staff was mostly a combination of volunteers and then some people that we tapped because of the nature of the job they do. Is that fairly accurate?
Actually, at East, it was much more purposive in terms of everybody who was invited, because we had a lot more people that we would like to have included than we were able to, in order to have a group that was going to be workable in the time allotted the way they were. For faculty, we know that there are people who are really very good about reporting to us when they see things. They're very much aware. So maybe in PE, other departments, deans, a lot of our support staff. I mean, those people see and hear a lot, they know a lot, so it was very good cross-representation of all of the adults who work in the building. I would say even for the other, I wouldn't even say 50-50, I think pretty much we had a long list of students that were identified, some as sort of, you know, victims or kids who had been picked on. We made sure that we had those students with IEPs and ELLs, English language learners represented, because it's a different kind of behavior sometimes. And we also had some kids that we knew had sort of been the ones who promote that sort of thing with the deans and have made some progress, but they've had a history. So we really tried to present, you know, a broad swath, and then in terms of parents, some of the parents were, had kids who were in that particular focus group. Others of them, again, may have been, you know, a history in terms of working with the deans. The deans had a lot. We spent a lot of time with the 3 deans and assistant principal, really talking about who would contribute, who's going to come in with a, you know, constructive point of view in terms of how we went about it. But very much people with a point of view about bullying or what they thought bullying would be. So, you know, maybe a little skewed in that regard in terms of people in the room.
So you selected purposely people who had
Yes.
experience as opposed to trying to get a representative cross-section of the student population of the faculty.
Yes, we did, yeah.
Okay. I think that's an important factor when people are
Yes.
looking at the report.
And along that line, Margaret, the report references a large survey, because we surveyed, I think our end was over 1,000 when you include staff, students, and parents. So we had survey data that probably is much closer to a scientific, normal distribution of our population. Their reporting of events much different than the narrative reporting that's reflected in the small focus groups, and that's intentional. I mean, I think one of the things that was important in this was to hear the voices of those for whom this has been a personal issue, but it does create in the report, I think, a sense of what's the real perspective.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And with that, we're down to closed session. Do we have any items for closed session tonight? Okay. Have a motion to go into closed session for review of closed session minutes, appointment, employment, compensation, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, imminent or pending litigation, and collective negotiating matters.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Sullivan? Judy?
Lees,
Aye.
Owen,
Aye.
Heller, Sullivan, Childers, Lee, McGrath.
Aye. All right, we are in closed session.